No matter who you are or where you live in the world, you're always going to be around old people. And amongst these old people, they're divided into two types. Now, of course, we can subcategorize and argue about the different types of old people all day long. It's a fascinating subject that I'm sure everybody thinks about all the time. But there's something separating the happy old people from the miserable ones. And it's caught my eye for a few years now, and finally the Quran started to explain my curiosity once again. So if you visited any nursing home or you've worked any job, especially in construction, you're going to run across some old people and be around them quite a bit. And being around them, you'll realize there's some that are extremely happy and there's some that are extremely not happy. I've always wondered, when it comes to the end of your life, what separates the miserable old people from the joyful, happy, enlightened old people? And what I've came to the conclusion is that it is regret. There is the elderly that regret their life, that they've made a ton of mistakes and they wish they would have done the things of their dreams and followed a beautiful path in life. Whereas the other ones, they are happy because they did those things. They made those choices, they made their mistakes, and they're comfortable with the mistakes they've made. Now, of course, we know within the Quran, pretty much any religious text, it tells you you need to go to God and admit your faults and admit your mistakes and find a way to get resolution to your wrongs. Now, I get there is some books that tell you need to go to a man, but at the end of the day, we all understand we need to go to God for these things, for forgiveness. Now, whenever we do run into these old people, they're going to come at you in two different types of ways. There was one group, maybe your grandma, maybe your grandfather even, they come to you and they compliment the things you're doing correct. They tell you you're working so hard, you're doing all these things efficiently, you're making the right choices, and they give you really good, proper advice in life. And then there's the other group that are miserable and angry, and they tell you everything you're doing wrong. They point out your flaws. Well, it seems that both of them are trying to do the exact same thing. They're trying to get you to avoid the regrets or the mistakes that they made themselves. And although they're both trying to do the same thing, and I do believe a lot of them, most of them are truly trying to help others, there is a massive difference between the two. The happy set, the people who are peaceful, they attract happier things in their life. So this is something where we can find common ground against the spiritual people. If you look at the vibration frequency, at the bottom of it talks about how it is shame and regret and guilt. Those emotions are the lowest of vibrations. And then all the way at the top of the vibrations, they use the term enlightenment. Now, I believe that term is completely overused, and enlightenment is often attached to ego, so I don't really like the word personally, but that's a personal issue I have with it. But it pretty much means peacefulness. You are very content, you're very comfortable, you are at peace with your life and the things around you. And the way to go from the bottom to the top is going to be through forgiveness. Now, of course, your first step of forgiveness, your first step to get away from these low vibrations is going to be seeking forgiveness from Allah. You need to pray, you need to ask for forgiveness, you need to ask God to forgive you for the mistakes you've made and give you the strength to not make those mistakes in the future. This was a massive thing for me. Going from the occult to religious is a big thing, and you're going to feel a lot of shame and a lot of regret. And although I was very forgiving with myself because I was just seeking my path, I was searching high and low to find the correct answers, and I found the correct answer last, it was through seeking forgiveness from God that I was able to get through that. And if you're not able to get through that shame and regret, you're going to attract a lot of bad things. That is the lowest level on the vibration frequency, and the frequency you sit at is what you're going to attract. The way we work is we attract, we don't chase. If you chase something, it adds an emotion of need, and it makes you feel like you have a need for things, and it's going to actually repel them. It's going to push them out of your life whenever you're chasing. What you want to do is attract the positive things in life. And one way to be forgiven is to forgive others. Now, you ask Allah for forgiveness because we have all made massive mistakes in our life. We need to work on forgiving others, and this will put us in the habit and the repetition of feeling this emotion of forgiveness in this alignment pyramid. And of course, there's always going to be people that are going to hold on to things against you. They're always going to use your past as a weapon towards you. I truly believe when you get in the habit of forgiving others, they're going to be in the habit of forgiving you. And that is something we need to work on. When we make mistakes and we do wrong towards people around us, our community, our loved ones, or even strangers, we need to seek forgiveness from them. We need to right our wrongs. We need to set the standard in society. And I do believe the Islamic community does do that. And we can see that through statistics and all kinds of different metrics. We can see that the Islamic community does set the standard. And one of the ways that this is achieved is through forgiveness and not holding grudges. And the reason why I bring this up is it's a common subject within the DMs on Instagram. I get a lot of DMs of people saying they made this mistake or they accidentally did this ritual once upon a time and they feel guilty for it and they're scared, they're nervous, they're worried about going to hell, they're worried about being disciplined or having jinn attached to them and all these things destroying their life. They feel a lot of guilt and a lot of shame and they haven't forgiven themselves for it. You have to forgive yourselves for your mistakes, or else those mistakes are going to dictate your life and you're going to end up like that 60-year-old man on a construction site that's yelling at everybody else for being stupid or whatever mistake they make. He overjudges them. That is the future of the people who aren't forgiving. And to add a layer on top of that, we need to seek forgiveness sooner than later. Chapter 6, verse 31 of the Quran says, "Losers indeed are those who disbelieve in meeting God until the hour comes to them suddenly. Then they say, we deeply regret wasting our lives." For the most part, especially if we live in the West and in America, we live very easy, privileged lives. And quite often, we don't seek forgiveness until the consequence comes. And this is something I personally struggled with. I struggled with this quite a bit. I just continued on my life and continued on my path and was just going forward over and over and over again. And also, this is one of the things that the occult doesn't teach. They teach anything except for forgiveness. They tell you you need to curse everybody else because they did something wrong to you. And the fact of the matter is we can't lie to ourselves. People lie to others. People can lie to their friends and their families and their mom and their dad, and they can lie to all the co-workers around them. They can lie to everybody, but you can't lie to yourself and you can't lie to God. And eventually those mistakes you made are going to eat you alive. You can't run from them. Nobody is perfect. And eventually we have to sit down and be brutally honest with ourselves. We need to sit down with ourselves and accept the fact that none of us are perfect and we make quite a few mistakes. And the first step to being forgiving towards yourself is praying to God and asking for forgiveness and admitting your wrongs. The second one is forgiving your enemies, forgiving others, forgiving that person that disrespected you. When you hold on to these things and you hold on to these grudges, it's going to eat you alive and you give up all of your power. That bully in the 7th grade that disrespected you, that called your mom fat or whatever it may have been that they said, when you spend your whole life trying to prove them wrong and get back at them and you're holding this anger towards them, you give all your energy towards them. You're basing your whole life based around something somebody said to you forever ago. And the start to being more forgiving and more happy is by forgiving those people you hold the largest grudge toward. When you see somebody at the end of their life extremely miserable and filled with regret, it's extremely painful to watch. It's very saddening seeing your loved ones go through this. And so I hope some of you guys understand what I was saying and kind of take it into consideration.